1 in 68 children is diagnosed with autism. It's the fastest growing developmental disability in the United States. Boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. Approximately 100 individuals are diagnosed with autism every day, and there is no medical detection or cure.
I think what's important to know about a stat like that is when we first started 20 years ago, the stat was 1 in 10,000. And that was the beginning of the emergence of autism in the population. So you see the rise starts coming into about the early 90s.
He was diagnosed around 19 months. He was doing fine. He was hitting all of his markers. And then it was like one day just the lights shut off. And he no longer wanted you to touch him. He stopped speaking. He stopped wanting to be in the same room as people. He would rather just be alone in his room with blocks or something. And it wasn't even gradual. It was just overnight.
Our oldest son was diagnosed on his 4th birthday. And so going into the center, we knew there were problems, but there were so many pieces not adding up for us. So we had no idea of what we were going into. We had a whole panel of people reviewing his situation. So there was a child psychologist, a sociologist, a physical therapist, a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, a nurse. There were about 7 or 8 people on his team. So when they come back and tell us what their 3 to 4 hour assessment looked like, and started putting together all those missing puzzle pieces for us, we realized this is greater than anything that we had thought. So walking out and going back to our car, we looked at each other and thought, what just happened? It's a very big shock, because all of the dreams, aspirations, hopes you've had for your child, they now are not there, and you don't know what the future looks like, because there's so many people who could not give that to us. They could not tell us. They didn't know. I mean, this was still kind of a new emerging epidemic, and a lot of the people that we came in contact with for help and hope did not have any answers.
4 or 5 days a week we were in the car driving to anybody that wanted to or could work with Griffin at the time. You just have to, you gotta be on your toes. Unfortunately, these programs are spread out all over the state. They're there, but they're just getting to them is, it's a geographical nightmare trying to find, okay, we need to be here on Tuesday, but we need to be south on Wednesday, It's just, it's a full-time job.
There's this spiral of time that just keeps getting away from you. There's just not enough time to have to go in all these different directions for medical help, for vision help, for occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. And when you're doing 15 hours a week of therapy outside of your home, and then you're bringing that child in the home and you're doing therapy too, the world becomes very, very chaotic, and it's extremely difficult. So we did have a time where we were finally able to get all of the therapists to come into our home, and that settled things down dramatically. But that was a gift for a young family, to be able to function there in the home and have all of the therapists come in. And it was also a way too of having a more intimate conversation with them, and they were able to see, okay, this is what she's been trying to tell us that's happening. I think being able to centralize everything in one location on a campus is wonderful. Again, too, you have multiple resources or infrastructure to pull from on a campus, where I can remember sitting in the little observation room by myself and grieving and being very upset and thinking, what did we do wrong? Where do we go from here? How did this happen? How can we fix this? And you're questioning yourself, you're questioning your spouse, you're questioning every therapist or professional trainer that comes into your life, every doctor. Your mind is in turmoil watching this child, because they're failing, they're struggling with the therapist. They're there because they can't do what the therapist is asking them to do, and it's something very sensible, very intuitive for most of us, but not for these children. And so you must have those therapists working with your child to build the bridge to the world for that child.
So the goal for the Autism Center originally stemmed from just a need that we saw in the area. As far as we knew, there were just a few places in the river region that actually provided services and support for families and children with autism. We did some initial research just to kind of see what that looked like, what services schools were providing and that kind of thing, and there's really not much. So we just saw this as a huge gap in the region. And then with Dr. Williams, Lisa Williams and Mike Williams' son, being autistic, it just really struck a chord with them when we sort of presented this idea of an autism center or providing autism services. And so that's really kind of where the initial idea came from. And so from there, we've just kind of morphed into initially starting with what are the needs of the area. So we've talked to teachers, we've partnered with Dr. David Bickard at Great Leaps Learning Center. He services children with autism, and he's provided us with some great information as well as meeting with the people from Texas Tech. And so all these local folks and talking with Texas Tech have really provided us with sort of a general picture of what we think we'd like to do, but we really want to have the needs of the community guide the direction the center goes in.
Well, our center hopes to be a hub for families in the community who are affected by the autism diagnosis, somewhere where they can come for resources, for support, for diagnostics, for treatment, and somewhere where they can turn in the time of need when their child is first being diagnosed, or when their child is in a transition phase, or when they're an adult with autism and they don't know where to go to get the help that they need. And so we're hoping to develop that kind of a center where the community can turn to say, this is where I can go to get those resources, to get those diagnostics, to get those referrals that I need to support my family member with autism.
Faulkner University's Autism Center envisions becoming the preferred provider for families and individuals affected by autism in the River region and beyond. Faulkner's College of Education will offer courses dedicated to the education of individuals with autism and integrate its current clinical experience offerings within the Autism Center. And through an interdisciplinary approach, will develop clinics and classes for individuals, families, and professionals such as, but not limited to, IEPs, movement and expression through the arts, social skills, and respite care through Parents' Nights Out. Faulkner's Psychology Department will seek to meet the Behavioral Analysis Certification Board course standards and will offer a Master's in Psychology with an emphasis in Applied Behavioral Analysis, making it the second of its kind in Alabama. Faulkner University is currently seeking approval to begin the foundation of its College of Health Sciences, leading to the development of programs including speech and language pathology, RN to BSN, doctorate in physical therapy, occupational therapy, and physician's assistant. And Faulkner University's Cloverdale Center for Youth and Family Ministry will be available to provide family counseling for families struggling with the challenges of special needs adults and children.
The Burkhart Center at Texas Tech has really been our model, and we've watched their trajectory as they've not only impacted their institution in the area of Lubbock, but really now are impacting people from all over the Southwest. When they came to Montgomery to help us envision what our center might look like, they unashamedly said, this will be a powerful influence in the state of Alabama and in the Southeast. We really feel like the boundaries of this center will extend far beyond even the river region. It will really be a place of professionalism and thought that will really impact scores of individuals throughout our country.